Okay, Ronnie, you have two questions here, but I'm going to combine them, all right, and post one of them. I like the simplicity of the first one. What is an IEP, and can you give me examples of a teacher not following the IEP plan? And then the second part of that was that you went to visit your child's teacher, who you asked about his schoolwork and his grade, and she said that his grade reflects his work and said that he does not do it. Okay, so I'm going to use that to then circle back to that second part of your question about examples of a teacher not following the IEP plan. Quite frankly, that's an example of a teacher not following your IEP plan, unless, of course, your IEP isn't designed appropriately and isn't designed in a way that envelops or services all of your child's needs, which is very common. Okay, but an IEP, of course, means an individualized education program, which means that your child has a qualifying disability, whatever that may be, whatever his diagnosis is, or if he has a learning disability. That's one component. The second component is that he has a qualifying disability and he's in need of specialized instruction, which is what special education is. So this is specialized instruction aspect. And then within the specialized instruction aspect, you also have accommodations. And then with that, to help enhance or help your child succeed in the educational performance areas. And those are all the areas within a school day where your child has deficits, where we design goals for him to accomplish, to overcome those deficits, and services to go along with that. So those are educational performance areas. And those would include academics, communication, social, emotional development, including behavior. All right. And then depending on the severity of the child's needs, it could be functional skills, meaning toileting, getting dressed, feeding themselves, things of that nature. Those would be functional skills. And then the last one, when your child hits ninth grade, you would have transition skills, 14 or ninth grade. That would be where the areas that you would develop goals and then services. So the other area, because I said that you have your IEP goals for your educational performance areas, then you have your accommodations, and your accommodations are not the same thing. They're there to support the child, but that's sort of the civil rights aspect of special education, to put your child on an equal playing field, so to speak, with typically developing children and or peers that don't have disabilities or specialized instruction need. You have those two components. Well, you have a third component back here called related services, and those related services could be occupational therapy, speech, language, ABA therapy or behavior therapy, physical therapy, things of that nature. All right. And it's not limited. It could be counseling, it could be psychological services. There's a whole bunch of things out here in the related service realm. And the reason it's called related services is it has to relate back to what the child's deficits are in the educational performance areas. And that's why they call it related services. They're appendages, or they're linked to the deficits identified in the educational performance areas that I talked about before. All right. And the reason that we give a child occupational therapy is, let's say that they have an issue with written expression or writing. Their handwriting's horrible, things of that nature. Then, fine motor skills, functional skills, tying the shoes. Those things, just one example, speech language helps with the educational performance area of communication, and also in social emotional development, and also with regards to reading. All right, there is an absolute connection between a child's ability to use language and understand language properly and their ability to progress in reading comprehension, written expression, things of that nature. So the related services are back there too. So when you're developing your IEP, That's how you've got to look at it. And the first couple pages are going to be an explanation of your child, their strengths, weaknesses, their deficits, things of that nature. That's why we have evaluation, so that we understand where your child's levels are. And so we got to know where your child's levels are, which is what's called present level of performance or present level of functioning within your IEP. Then you create the goal based upon where your child currently is at, and you set the goal up here. All right. And then the service on what they need in order to accomplish that goal is the other component. That could be in the form of him being pulled out for resource class time, for one-to-one instruction with a resource teacher. It could be pushed into his general education class, but it's got to be specialized instruction. Otherwise, what's the point? If they're going to be pushing services into general education, that's fine. But how is that specialized instruction? It has to be different. It has to be special. It has to be something that the other students are not getting. Otherwise, it's not specialized instruction. The general education teachers are absolutely included in the success. Rewind. There we go. Ignore that last 10 seconds. The general education staff is absolutely critical components. That is why they are a mandatory member of the IEP team. All right. So the people that have to be at your IEP team every year is you. Somebody that's in charge that can make decisions called an LEA, special education teacher, and a general education teacher. Those are the absolute mandatory people. Now, related service providers can be there when the IEP team is directly discussing the services directly related to what they're doing. Outside of that, they don't have to be there. But these 4 people absolutely have to be there, and that includes you. Okay, you can invite anybody you want, but when you're developing that IEP, that's how you do it. You have to have that general education hat there. And that general education piece is a critical component to the success of your child. So if you have your child's teacher, and I'm assuming that your child's in a general education class, and your child's teacher is saying, well, his schoolwork is a reflection of the effort that he's putting in, well, that sort of tells me that something's not right. Either your teacher or general education teacher is unaware of your child's needs as defined in the IEP, or the IEP isn't reflective of the need that your child has. So to sit there and say, well, we recognize your child has a disability, we recognize your child's in need of specialized instruction, and then turn around and blame your child for a lack of effort, which is common. I see that all the time, and it's so freaking annoying to me when I sit in rooms or I see in an IEP where a staff is calling a kid lazy when the kid has an IEP. And not every child's lazy, people, and not everybody out there, is there's never a self-reflection that I've seen in situations like that, and that's my caveat, guys. I'm not throwing everybody out there. I'm saying that in the situations where I see things like this, the teacher is the problem. It's not the kid. The kid, we've already recognized, has an issue. They have deficits. And through the right peer-reviewed, scientifically based approach, that child can make improvements and that child can make gains. But to sit there and just chalk a kid up as lazy is disgusting. And it says more about the educator than it does about the child. And it's the educator that needs to change. And it also, like I said, is indicative of a IEP that isn't fully encompassing all of the educational performance areas, and that area with regards to motivation, and that would be considered a behavior, a social emotional aspect, where he would need, let's say, a behavior plan or a good functional behavior assessment to gauge his need for redirection, his attentiveness in class. They may have to put in motivators for him, to encourage him to complete his work. Maybe he doesn't understand what's going on, and so he's shut down. And if he's 1 or 2 grade levels behind his peers, then it is not shocking to me that a child 2 or 3 grade levels behind their peers, 1 to 3, is shutting down and not wanting to complete their work. They don't know what's going on. So that's where, there needs to be additional investigations or observations done on your child in order to identify what is going on there. But, accommodations or supplemental aids and services that they could put into place to help him out would be, reducing the expectation. Let's say the students in his class get 30 things to do. They reduce his down to 15, and they concentrate or focus on mastery of the concept and not just doing busy work. All right. You might have to sit there and have a reward put in for the things that he does. Reinforcement, positive reinforcement, gets far more out of kids than punitive or making fun of them or giving them bad grades. None of that stuff helps. It's not a motivator. And I wish every educator would be out there and think about themselves. Does it motivate you? And always think about that. Does it motivate you to have the principal or the superintendent ride your butt and tell you how horrible you are or how lazy you are? So why do that to kids? I mean, it's even more dangerous for kids because, they're far more impressionable and far more susceptible to kind of emotional and mental damage that adults, do to kids. I mean, think about yourself, those of you, that have made it past this point. How many of you, being adults now, are nothing but damaged adults because of different points in your life? And not all aspects of your life have to be damaged points. But you can sit there and pinpoint, and some of it's going to be your public education experience with a bad teacher. And which is why some people say that they're not good at math or, they're stupid or whatever. It's been reinforced at that point. So yes, I'm categorizing different aspects of your life. Doesn't mean that you're a failure in life, but it means that particular thing or that particular subject or that particular part of your life is damaged. And even though you're an adult and even though you can rationally think about it now as an adult, it's still there because it happened when you were a child. So we all need to be aware of that. We all need to be very, very cautious. And that's why these IEPs are there. They're a safety net. An IEP is a safety net. A 504 is a safety net below that. RTI is a safety net below that. We have a series of safety nets for our kids. But yet, Ronnie, you're dealing with this issue. But those are all examples of things that could be done. And I mean, if you go back into the archives, you'll be able to find a few videos that are applicable to your situation. And then you can also Google a good IEP. I did a Facebook Live, and it's going to be in the arc. It's going to go. You just have to keep scrolling down to find it about how to write a good IEP and how to write a good goal. You might want to watch that. That would be very beneficial. But I hope that answers your question. I wanted to go in a little bit more detail, so it's a little bit longer than my normal videos. But good luck.